Good morning, and happy Sunday from the farm. Welcome to another episode of Thinking Outside the Soil with your host, Seany Alfalfaseed. So it went well last Sunday telling a little bit of my story. I thought it would be great to do a small series of Who is Sean Short or Who is Seany Alfalfaseed. So we'll continue today with part 2 of who I am. So I last left off about breaking my back and being told that I would never walk again. I spent a lot of time rehabilitating in the hospital. I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to go to the bathroom. I had to learn how to sleep. I had to learn how to eat. I had to learn how to do it all over again. And it was embarrassing at times. I remember walking down the hospital hallway and leaving trails of feces behind me and never even knowing that that was me because I couldn't control my own bowels. I didn't have it quite figured out again yet, which is a trip when you go through a spinal cord injury, what it will do to these other areas of your life without you realizing what it can. So rather than become a Marine, my best friend at the time invited me to go off to high school or go off to college. He wanted to play soccer at a little school called CSU Pueblo and said, hey, you're sitting around recovering, doing nothing but getting drunk and popping pills. Why don't you come to school with me? I would love to be your roommate and do this together. So we enrolled, we went, we began as roommates, but quickly separated from that situation in order to maintain our friendship. It was actually extremely healthy situation, but it wasn't until we figured that out. And to this day, it's been almost 20 years since then, and we're still friends. We don't live in the same area anymore, but we still have that opportunity to talk to each other. What I did do at CSU Pueblo was learn how to become a drunk. I got my bachelor's degree in mixology from CSU Pueblo. Totally turned my entire dorm room floor into alcoholics. I would show up at 8 in the morning with empty shot glasses and whatever alcohol we had left over from the night before. And there usually wasn't much, but it was there for the hair of the dog that I experienced pretty much every day of my life until my early 30s. And surprise, surprise, I didn't get a degree. I actually dropped out only after a year and tried to attend the local community college, Pikes Peak Community College, living on my friends' couches, couch surfing, and burning all of those bridges about once a month. I burned a bridge once a month before I moved in with my grandmother. And I was able to pull the wool over her eyes for a long time. At least I thought I did. She let me. She knew. And she enabled a lot of it. But I was also a conniving little shit. This show isn't supposed to be explicit, so I apologize for that. But I was a delinquent. And, I was manipulative. I did things to get my way, to get drunk. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get drunk all the time. That's all I wanted to do. Get drunk, get drunk, get drunk. So I'm not just a recovering drunk or a former drunk with a dream. I also have made a lot of poor decisions while being an alcoholic, while being drunk, or in between the moments of being inebriated. It's led to multiple DUIs, multiple arrests. I have more mugshots than I have fingers and toes. I've worn so many metal bracelets that I actually tattooed bracelets on my wrist to remind myself to never wear them again. Right? I've made some jokes with some of my friends who are some friends who were felons. They're not now felons, but in the world that I am in with Blooming Health Farms, we deal with a lot of at-risk individuals, justice-involved individuals. And they often laugh at me. They're like, man, you've got the thicker rap sheet than I do. And I joke, I go, yeah, it's thicker than a Snicker. And I'm surprised that I am where I am because of what I did. But it's because of what I did that got me to do what I do today and to fall in love with what I am doing. During my fogginess of being an alcoholic, I had a period of clarity. I had about 4 years of clarity where I didn't drink. I was dry. I was when the word dry typically is used to mean that you're not working on your mental health aspect of addiction, well, specifically alcoholism. And so that's where I was. I didn't do enough for it. I didn't know that I needed to. So when I was dry, I re-enrolled in college. I went to the local community college here in Greeley called Ames Community College, and I fell in love with science. My family comes from a science background. My dad, I mentioned in last week's episode, is a veterinarian. My mother is a critical care nurse. She actually teaches advanced burn care to the professionals out there. So it's one of her specialities. And my brother was a EMT when he was alive, and he grew up as an outdoorsman, and we spent a lot of time together. He was my best friend. I fell in love with plants. So the way I fell in love with plants, like a lot of us in Colorado do, is because I grew a pot plant. Yeah, I did. And it's funny. I say it so casually living here, and so many people are so shocked and surprised when I say it so casually, and I don't remember that I grew up around a culture that grows up with cannabis. This was something that I have had my entire life and was told that this is a plant that you must love, trust, and respect because it is a gift from Mother Earth and it is a medicine. So I don't even think I even understood or knew about it until I was 18 from the perspective of personally knowing it. So of course when I was a kid, I mentioned that it was everywhere. And a lot of us in Colorado grew up that way. My first plant was very, very poorly grown. So for all of us out there that grow our first plant, whatever it may be, whether it's a house plant, whether it's our first crop in the field, it's usually not the best. But you would never have known if you saw the pictures that we took after harvest that time. This cheesy grin on my face totally said I fell in love with what I was doing. And I knew that I could do a lot better. And it's funny, this is a story I tell in my book. But, so you get the opportunity here to hear it a little bit differently. Because sometimes you can't say things the same when you're using the written word. I dove into every single book that I could to figure out how to grow a better pot plant. Everything. I got on Google. I got on, it was MySpace. We didn't have, YouTube wasn't so robust. And then, I went to the library. I love libraries. Every place that I travel to, I make it a priority or an intention to go to the public library. So far, my favorite public library is in Kansas City, and I got the chance to be there when I was a traveling salesman selling water treatment equipment and as a sales engineer a few years ago. And best steak in the world, by the way, ever. So sorry, Colorado cows. The best steak I've ever had is in Kansas City. While doing that studying of cannabis, I came across this hydroponics book. And there was this picture that blew me away. I was staring at what looked like this giant green trellis, and all over the entire trellis were these little red orbs just hanging there. They look like the little the balls on a Christmas tree that you see glowing there, and they were just everywhere. But I could clearly see that there was a pot that this green tree with red orbs was coming out of. And I just kind of paused for longer than I thought I would have, and I looked at the caption, and it said, Epcot Center, tomato. And I was like, whoa. And literally right then and there, I had my first epiphany that we should be growing our food that way. And I saw this one plant over a 1/4 acre producing tomatoes so prolifically that you could barely see the green canopy. And I said, holy crap. And I became enamored with hydroponics at that moment. And I immediately knew what it is I wanted to do. I wanted to grow food hydroponically. And so I first wanted to be a hydroponic farmer that grew tomatoes. I was going to grow all the tomatoes I could, just like the one in the picture. And you know what? I recognized that where I was living up in South Park, Colorado, wasn't the best place to grow tomatoes. And it wasn't the best place to learn how to do that either. My brother and I were living up in this area called South Park as ski bums. I may have glossed over slightly that my brother and I lived up in the mountains for a while. But before finding my path to Ames Community College, my brother and I made our attempts at becoming professional ski bums. I was going to be a ski instructor, and he was a mechanic, a lift operator mechanic. Pretty neat job. We decided to leave our mountain home and pursue our different dreams. Mine was to grow tomatoes, and Kyle's was to become a paramedic. So I knew that if I wanted to grow tomatoes here in Colorado, I was going to have to do things a little bit differently than what I saw in this picture. So for here, that meant I needed to understand my environment and the market in the industry. And so particularly, this Colorado has seasons, and these seasons are going to influence how well you can grow. So I was like, well, I saw this giant tomato inside of a greenhouse. That's my golden ticket. That is my golden ticket. So with that, we'll take a break from the story about me for today's Sunday edition of Who is Seany Alfalfaseed. So stay tuned, where I'll continue talking about my hydroponic education journey and how I became to be the executive director of Blooming Health Farms, where we get an opportunity to help others like the person that I used to be, and we get to do it as best we can. So I'd like to thank you for being with me on another episode on this beautiful Sunday. We'll see you soon. Take care. Have a lovely day. Hey, before you go, check out the links below. Leave me a rating and review and follow the show. Don't forget to get yourself some of our Blooming Health blended sprouting mix. Our mix has been shown to get the best eggs and create the healthiest flocks. With feed costs going up, right now's the time to lock in a subscription so that you can get the best eggs without having to go to the grocery store or the feed store anymore. Check out the links below to get yourself some Blooming Health blended sprouting mix.